In the year 2147, humanity had transcended the boundaries of Earth, spreading across the Milky Way and colonizing space. During this expansion, a peaceful and prosperous humanity found itself facing the dark shadow of an unknown threat. The first attack occurred near the Alvarin System. All communication abruptly ceased, several ships vanished, and no further word came from their crews. When rescue teams finally arrived, no one could have prepared them for the horrific sight. Amidst the wreckage of the ships, the few survivors were mentally shattered. These individuals were not only dealing with physical injuries but were also struggling with the signs of a mental invasion. The unknown enemy soon earned a name: the Malareths. This alien species didn't rely solely on physical attacks but possessed extraordinary abilities to control human minds. They could infiltrate the human psyche, strip away willpower, and turn individuals into their puppets. This was the greatest challenge humanity had ever faced, for the enemy was fighting not just on the physical plane but deep within the recesses of the mind. One of humanity's galactic defense leaders, Bramwell Kane, called an emergency meeting following the events at Alvarin. Bramwell was a leader known for his strategic brilliance and calm demeanor, and he was gathering intelligence from all corners of the galaxy to understand the situation. Initially, there was little known about the enemy's goals and motivations. However, once it was clear how significant the threat of mind control was, Bramwell realized they needed to develop methods to strengthen mental resistance. Bramwell's most trusted officer, Gideon Stark, volunteered to lead a reconnaissance and rescue mission. Gideon assembled a team of specially trained operatives, skilled not only in military operations but also in defending and safeguarding the mind. His team included Halwyn Pierce, Damaris Lowell, and Thayer Roan, each with unique skills and expertise. Their first stop was Ileona Base, one of the earliest human colonies near Alvarin and one of the first to fall to the enemy's attack. When they arrived, the team was horrified by what they saw. The corridors were filled with debris from damaged ships and people wandering aimlessly. Some of these people had lost consciousness, their minds already overtaken by the Malareths. The blank stares and purposeless movements of the survivors revealed the terrifying power of the enemy. As Gideon and his team entered the base, they were on high alert. The corridors were dark in places, shrouded in mist. Scorch marks on the walls and the extent of the destruction showed clear signs of both physical and mental assaults. Halwyn, wearing thermal goggles, took point, with Damaris and Thayer close behind. As they moved forward, Halwyn suddenly stopped, drawing the team's attention. "Something feels off here," Halwyn whispered, scanning the area. "It's like there's a vibration. It's echoing in the back of my mind." Gideon frowned. "It could be a residual effect of the mind attack. Stay sharp, everyone. We may be dealing not just with lost people, but with individuals who've had their minds hijacked." At the end of the corridor, the team encountered a group of colonists standing unnaturally still. There was a strange glow in their eyes, and they all turned toward the team in unison. It was as if an invisible hand was controlling them. Suddenly, the colonists attacked. The first wave served as a test for the team. Gideon raised his laser rifle and fired a stun shot, but the attackers only slowed down, not stopped. They've had their minds taken, but their bodies are still as strong as ours. Damaris shouted as she fended off the attackers. "We need a way to neutralize them without killing them." Gideon saw the enemy closing in fast. "Use the stun grenades," he ordered. Halwyn and Thayer quickly reached for the devices. When the grenades went off, the corridor was filled with a bright light, followed by deafening silence. Every colonist within the blast radius collapsed, unconscious. The team took a deep breath, but the weight on their minds still lingered. This was a war that went beyond physical confrontation, one that extended into the depths of the psyche. Bramwell's decision to launch a galactic resistance against this new enemy was inevitable, and Gideon knew he would be on the front lines of this battle. After the chaos at Ileona Base, Gideon and his team made their way to the central command room. Their goal was to locate the source of the Malareth's mind control signals and understand the enemy's technology. With each step, they became more aware that this war wasn't just fought with physical strength, it was a battle deep within their minds. The base's main control hub was protected by a large security gate. The corridor leading to the gate, once bustling with base personnel, was now scarred by violent skirmishes and explosions. As Gideon worked on unlocking the gate, another group of colonists, under mental control, suddenly appeared. These people, driven mad by the Malareth's influence, moved with a frightening rage and lack of control. Their vacant eyes and rapid movements made them look more like monsters than humans. "Stun bombs won't work here," muttered Halwyn as he assessed the growing crowd. "We need to try something else." Gideon quickly scanned the area and noticed the power generator near the command room. "Halwyn, target the generator," he said decisively. "We can create an electric wave to push them back." Without hesitation, Halwyn aimed and fired at the power distribution unit above the generator. A sudden short circuit triggered an electric wave that surged down the corridor, hitting the mind-controlled colonists. Screams echoed as their mental bonds loosened, momentarily disorienting them. This brief advantage gave the team a chance to move forward quickly. Once inside the command room, they were greeted by Malareth technology, massive control panels and large screens. In the center of the room stood a device that emitted bright purple lights and low-frequency vibrations, which caused a strange mental discomfort. As Gideon had suspected, this was the main source of the mind control signals. "We need to shut this device down," Gideon said, approaching it. "But to completely cut the signal, we'll have to break through its encryption." Thayer rushed over to the console and began working frantically. "They've used multi-layer encryption," he said, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. "But we don't have time to crack it. We'll need to override it manually." Meanwhile, Damaris was guarding the entrance to the room. "Gideon, we've got movement," she shouted as another wave of enemies approached from the other side of the door. This time, it wasn't just mind-controlled colonists but also Malareth soldiers. The gray-skinned, slender creatures were armed with high-energy weapons and advanced rapidly. Damaris fired her laser rifle, taking down the first Malareth soldier, but the others quickly retaliated. Laser beams and energy blasts echoed through the room, creating a chaotic firefight. Gideon and Halwyn took cover behind the console, with Halwyn returning fire while Gideon focused on protecting Thayer. "Hurry up, Thayer," Gideon urged. "We can't hold this position for long." As the enemy's attacks grew more intense, the Malareth's psychic assaults began targeting not just bodies but souls. Gideon felt a sudden pressure in his mind, as though the enemy was trying to take over from within. The neuro-resistance chip embedded in his brain activated, pushing back against the mental invasion, but the strength of the assault was undeniable. Seizing a momentary opening, Halwyn grabbed an energy grenade from the floor and tossed it towards the enemy line. The explosion was deafening, sending a blinding flash across the room and knocking several Malareth soldiers off their feet. "Now, Thayer!" Halwyn yelled. "This might be our only chance." Thayer hit the final key, and the signal source shut down, cutting off the vibrations and plunging the room into a sudden silence. For a brief moment, everything was still. Then, many of the Malareth soldiers, disoriented by the loss of their mental connection, began retreating. This marked humanity's first significant victory against the Malareths, but Gideon knew this battle was far from over. "This is only the beginning," Gideon said, gripping the barrel of his laser rifle. "We need to report back to Bramwell and prepare for the next step. We're the only force capable of stopping the Malareth's plan to take over the galaxy." The victory at Ileona Base wasn't just physical. It was part of a much larger battle of minds. And humanity would need to rely on its mental resilience more than ever to win this war. After their first victory, Gideon and his team sent the data they had retrieved from Ileona Base to the Galactic Defense Command, gaining vital intelligence on the enemy. The Malareth's primary strategy was not to physically overpower humanity but to increase their control over minds, turning humans into mere puppets. The only way to stop this threat was to disable the Malareth's mind control technology and establish a defensive network that could resist their mental attacks. Bramwell Kane, after analyzing this data, decided to launch a large-scale operation to halt the attacks on all galactic colonies. But the success of this operation depended on locating the source of the Malareth's main signal and neutralizing it. According to the data they had gathered, the Malareth's primary signal station was on Xylar Prime, an old space mining station. Once a key transit point for human colonies, it had now become a heavily fortified base under Malareth control. Gideon and his team were tasked with infiltrating Xylar Prime and destroying the signal station. As their ship Valiant approached the target, Gideon had one thing on his mind. Humanity had one last chance to win this war, and failure would mean the entire galaxy falling under the enemy's mental enslavement. When they arrived at Xylar Prime, They saw that the station was surrounded by heavily armed Malareth warships patrolling its perimeter. On Gideon's command, Valiant bypassed the radar systems and discreetly docked at one of the station's lower levels. The team quickly disembarked, entering the station through a series of underground tunnels once used by miners but now abandoned and swallowed by darkness. As they progressed, a growing sense of unease weighed on their minds. Gideon could feel the Malareth's mental pressure. "Everyone check your neuro-resistance emitters," he ordered. "These signals are designed to weaken us from within. We need to maintain our mental resilience." At the end of the corridor, they reached the main control center. There, they found the Malareth's technology and the primary signal source. A massive device with a pulsating core, emitting bright purple lights and sending low-frequency vibrations that induced mental discomfort. The energy core was the central power source broadcasting the mind control signals across the galaxy. Alvarin approached the control panel, searching for a way to disable the signal. "This system is incredibly complex," he muttered. "It's not just sending out signals, it's also amplifying incoming ones. We need to take down the energy core first." Just then, Malareth soldiers began to emerge from the shadows. Gideon quickly pulled out his laser rifle and fired the first shot, dropping a Malareth soldier. "Move faster, Alvarin. We'll buy you the time," he shouted. The enemy's attacks grew fiercer. The Malareth soldiers weren't just using laser weapons, they were also launching mental assaults, trying to break the team's will. Gideon felt a sharp pain in his head, as if a force was invading his mind, blurring his thoughts. With the help of the neuro-resistance emitter, he managed to push through the effects, but the pressure was constantly increasing. Damaris, just a few meters away, was deflecting fire from two Malareth soldiers. Explosions and energy blasts echoed throughout the room, leaving sparkling trails on the metal floor. "These things never give up," she yelled, firing back with both her weapons. Finally, Alvarin reached the energy core and placed an explosive charge. Setting the timer, 3 minutes, he called out. Gideon signaled the team to make their escape. But as they exited the room, a large group of Malareths blocked their path. The battle resumed immediately. Gideon, after taking out 4 enemies with rapid laser shots, rolled to the ground to find cover. Thayer hurled an explosive energy grenade, scattering a group of Malareth soldiers, while Alvarin stayed back, providing covering fire to protect the team. Gideon moved swiftly, dodging enemy fire to create a diversion. At that moment, they felt another powerful mental attack. A figure, resembling a human but clearly one of the Malareth leaders, appeared. This being, unlike the others, exuded a strong mental aura, trying to shatter the team's resolve. Gideon, feeling the creature's gaze in his mind, momentarily lost his balance. His vision blurred, and his thoughts clouded, but his inner determination pulled him back from the brink. "Alvarin now!" Gideon yelled, attempting to distract the leader. Alvarin quickly raised his heavy laser weapon and unleashed a concentrated energy beam at the leader. The creature tried to deflect the attack but was pushed back by the force. This gave the team the opening they needed to escape. In the final seconds of the countdown, they managed to exit the control room just as the energy core detonated in a massive explosion. With the explosion, the mental pressure on their minds instantly lifted, and the Malareth signal source was destroyed. Back on Valiant, they received a communication from Bramwell. "You did it," Bramwell said, his voice filled with pride. "We now have everything we need to launch a full-scale attack against the Malareths. This war is far from over, but you've ignited the spark of resistance." Gideon knew the war wasn't finished. The victory on Xylar Prime was just the beginning. But now, there was hope spreading across the galaxy, a hope that would burn until the battle for the mind was truly won. I hope you had a good time. If you liked my story, do not forget to comment and subscribe to my channel. Goodbye, see you in the next story.